Political Science, Chapter 2. What is democracy? Why democracy? Democracy is a form of government in which the rulers are elected by the people. That is, you run the country through your representatives. But this definition is not adequate because it gives rise to many questions like who are the rulers, what kind of election constitutes democratic election, who are the people who can elect the rulers, and what kind of a form of government is democracy, and many more such questions. But these things shall be clarified with the features that we are going to study next. Features of democracy. First one, major decision by elected leaders. It happened in Pakistan that in October 1999, Pervez Musharraf led a military coup. In this coup, what he did was he overthrew a democratically elected government and he declared himself as the chief executive of Pakistan. Later, he declared himself as the president. After that, in 2002, he held a referendum, that is, vote on a single political issue, in which it granted him a 5-year extension. Through the sources, it was said that it was done through malpractices, fraud, and cheating. In August 2002, he issued a legal framework order in which he amended the constitution of Pakistan. He made president more powerful and said that the president can dismiss the national and provisional assemblies. Now, the elected government of Pakistan was working under Pervez Musharraf, who, in the first place, was not elected by the people. This gives us our first feature, that is, in a democracy, the final decision-making power must rest with those elected by the people. Second feature, free and fair election. In China, elections were held regularly, that is, after every 5 years. It was done to elect the parliament over there, which was known as National People's Congress, which then after appointed the president. Everyone who had to contest elections had to be part of the Chinese Communist Party and take their approval. In any case, if he was not a part of the Chinese Communist Party, he had to be a member of the 8 smaller parties that were allied to the Chinese Communist Party. So, in any case, if a person is winning elections, he or she is a part of the Chinese Communist Party indirectly. That is, people there don't have a real choice. At the end, the party that would be winning is Chinese Communist Party. In Mexico as well, elections were held regularly, that is, after every 6 years to elect the president over there. Until 2000, every election was won by PRI, that is, Institutional Revolutionary Party. What they did was change the polling booths at end time so that the people couldn't reach there to vote. Even the teachers of the government schools forced the parents to vote the PRI party. Media never showed the activities of the opposition party, rather always criticized them. Through such unfair practices, PRI used to always win elections over there. In China, even though elections were held, people didn't have a real choice. Also, in Mexico, even after there being opposition parties, their people did not have a great choice because of the unfair practices happened over there. Holding elections of any kind is not sufficient. People should have a real choice, and also, if they want, they should have the power to change or remove the existing ruler, which gives us our next feature, that is, a democracy must be based on free and fair elections, where those currently in power have a fair chance of losing as well. Next feature, one person, one vote, one value. The principle of universal adult franchise was followed in almost every part of the world, but there were many cases where people were denied equal right to vote. First example of it is Saudi Arabia. Over there, women are not allowed to vote. Second example is Estonia. People belonging to the Russian minority find it difficult to go and vote. Third example is Fiji. The vote of indigenous Fiji has more value than that of an Indian Fiji. If voting is held Every vote should have the same value rather than discriminating on any basis, which gives us our next feature, that is, in a democracy, each adult citizen must have one vote and each vote must have the same value. Next feature, rule of law and respect for rights. In Zimbabwe, after attaining independence and leading the freedom struggle, the party that was ruling was ZANU-PF, which was headed by Robert Mugabe. Robert Mugabe was a popular leader over there, but after some time he started using unfair practices to win the elections. The government changed the constitution over there several times, which made him more powerful, that is the president, and less accountable. It harassed the workers of the opposition parties. Public protests and demonstrations were illegal if were against the party, that is ZANU-PF. Even the televisions and radio were controlled by the government, and if there were any independent newspapers and they went against him, they used to harass them as well. Popular governments can be undemocratic as well, as you saw in the previous example of Zimbabwe. And leaders like Robert Mugabe, which are popular, can also turn autocratic and take the absolute power and misuse it. The state should always know that they should respect the rights of citizens and work according to the rules and regulations that are set in the constitution. Everyone should be equal in the eyes of the law. The states should know if given powers, they should not misuse it and work according to the rights of the citizens. Also, there should be an independent judiciary which oversees it and protects the rights of the citizens, which gives us our next feature, that is, a democratic government rules within limits set by the constitutional law and citizens' rights. There are certain demerits of democracy. First one, constant changing of leader leads to instability. You know that every few years elections are held and there are many chances that the current ruling party could change. This changing of leaders leads to instability in the country. Next, democracy is all about political competition and power play. As we have already studied the above examples, we do know that people could go to any extent to win elections. There is no scope for morality. People do not look after right and wrong. They just think about how they could win the election. Delay in decision making. In democracy, many people have to be consulted before arriving on a point. That's why it takes a lot of time to arrive on conclusion. Elected leaders do not know the best interest of people. Many a time it happens that the leaders who get elected do not know what they actually should do for the people and as well as their country. It leads to corruption. Bribing and corruption has become a part of democracy because of political competition. Ordinary people don't know what is good for them. People often don't realize what they actually want and what is best for them. Merits of democracy. First one, democracy is more accountable form of government. Since democracy is a representative democracy, you elect your leaders. It is mandatory for them to focus on your needs and act accordingly. Whatever the issues of the people are, they need to be solved by the government. Next, democracy improves the quality of decision making. Since in democracy, many people have to be consulted before arriving on a single conclusion, it does take time, but many suggestions, many mistakes are taken out of it, and which leads to an improvised decision. It reduces the possibility of rash and irresponsible decisions. Just like being accountable, democracy also provides a method to deal with differences and conflicts which is not possible in other forms of government. In a country like India, there are huge differences that people have. The preferences change from group to group and there are probabilities that it may result into a conflict or clash of the preferences. This can be best solved by democracy in a peaceful manner. The above three merits that we studied were based on the effects of democracy on the government. But what matters the most is what it does to its people. Most importantly, it enhances the dignity of the citizens. Democracy stands the best at respecting each and every citizen. It is based on the idea of political equality and treating every person equal no matter what. This is what makes democracy better than other forms of government. Democracy is also better than other forms of government because it allows us to correct our own mistakes. There may be chances of committing a mistake, but since nothing can be hidden from the people, it can either change their decision or the rulers will be changed. In a democracy with huge population, it gets difficult for all of its citizens to come together and take decision. And even if they could, they do not have enough time, desire, or the required skill set to make the decision. Therefore, citizens in a democracy mostly rule through their representatives. Citizens often think that they cannot make enough difference in the decision making process or what or how democratic their country will be. But most importantly, it's in the hands of the people, that is the citizen, that their country depends on, and not only the rulers.